Konnichiwa!
Howdy, y'all.
I'm Leslie.
I'm Laurie. Welcome to
Sumo Kaboom, where we talk about all things sumo.
That's right. And most of the time, we're very positive about our sumo, but occasionally we do hate on some people. So thank you so much, those of you that wrote in this week to tell us, hey, hold back on the Oshoma hate, please.
I know, it's so funny. We had to start out this week it's like heads were rolling. I felt like my head was rolling.
I appreciate it. I appreciate all the love that's building for this boy.
Yeah.
And you're all protecting him, and I like it.
Yeah.
I really like it. We're going to work hard to turn our feelings around about Oshoma.
Yeah. We will strive to find a positive side as long as he does not bully anybody again. And if he does, he's in big time trouble. But until that point, we have heard your call to be softer on Oshoma.
Okay, we'll be softer on Oshoma. I am working really hard to be softer on Abi and Oho. So, I appreciate the feedback from y'all that are like, hey, stay positive.
Yeah, I love Oho. And I like Abi too. But you know what? People are complex, y'all.
That's right.
We're just complex.
They can't all be our favorites, can they? Okay, maybe they can. Okay, today's episode, we're diving back into the Oyakata pool. Because some of you were enjoying the reporting that we were doing on Oyakata. And I also just think the more we know about the sumo landscape, the better. Case in point, on Twitter this morning, some unknown person, saw a post about Musashi Maru's opinions about the last basho. Mm-hmm. And this person, who shall remain unnamed, said, what does this guy know? Who does he think he is? Hakuho? And wrote this whole post, sort of denigrating Musashi Maru. If he had known who Musashi Maru was, I'm just assuming it's he. I don't know. If this person knew who Musashi Maru was, he or she would not have had that response. So we're into education.
Yeah, because Musashi Maru was a Yokozuna, the second American Yokozuna, and pretty sure one of the only two. Akebono won, and Musashi Maru right behind him.
Yeah, and he was an Ozeki for a long time, and he's an Oyakata.
Yeah, he's an Oyakata.
So he knows his stuff. That's really what it's about. He knows his stuff. And so we're trying to know our stuff too by learning as much as we can. So to make a long story short, I am going to be talking about Hakkaku.
Right.
Hakkaku or Hakkaku, however you say him. He is the chairman of the JSA. He's the guy that you see handing out the trophies at the end of the basho.
It's that double K, so isn't it Hakkaku?
Who knows?
Anyway, well, it doesn't matter. You know who we're talking about.
Yeah, that's who I'm going to be talking about. And you were talking about whom?
I'm going to be talking about Oitekaze Oyakata, who, if you look at pictures of him online, they're varied in different looks, but he kind of looks like a 70s Elvis to me. He has some sideburns, or he has at certain points, and he's bigger. He kind of looks like Fat Elvis, you know?
Okay. I like it.
At least that's kind of what I see in him. But he is a dynamo, and he's produced some amazing talent. So I'm going to chat with you about Oitekaze Oyakata. Well, the summer tour has begun, and there is a long laundry list of people who are not on tour due to injuries. Hoshoryu, Takakeisho, Takayasu, Asanoyama, by the way, who has a ruptured anterior cruciate ligament in left knee, injury to medial collateral ligament in left knee, left femur contusion, and I feel like the list goes on. It does not look good. Endo, osteoarthritis in both knees, Chiyoshoma, lumbar disc, and a few more. So there's 8 guys that are out so far, but the rest of them are on tour and the hijinks have begun. So we're starting to see all of the fun videos come in from the tour. That's something to keep an eye out for. Also, we're going to have this next tournament 2 tatagyojis. Because Kimura Yodo, he has been promoted because the other guy retires at the end of the next basho, Inosuke Shikimori. There's 2 tatagyojis now. Two
And
Papa
that's a big deal.
Yeah. Now there's still a rank above that that's empty because we should have Papa Gyoji, and then whoever is the one above it.
Super Papa Goji?
I can't remember the name of him, but we haven't had one in a really long time.
Okay.
But anyway, this unique tournament, we're going to have two because one's being promoted and then the other one is like on his way out.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So congrats to him. I know he's listening. And I guess I should say in this segment now, the news segment, we are going to be in Tokyo. So I love a recommendation. So if you all have been there, found yourselves, oh my gosh, we found like the best, shabu-shabu place. We found the best yakiniku, tell us your things that you loved and also where to see the wrestlers. I know we have a list of places we're going to go where we can hopefully see the wrestlers, but give us your tips and send us an email because like I said, the countdown has begun and we will be there in basically 1 month.
Yeah.
1 month away.
Yeah. Ooh.
Oitekaze stable is, here's what Wikipedia says. It's a stable of sumo wrestlers. And basically this stable is run by Maegashira Daishoho was his name. That was like October 1998, I think, when he was wrestling. And he is the current coach, big time head Oyakata at Oitekaze. I want to read you actually a little bit of what it says from their website, what he writes about himself.
Okay.
Greetings from the master of Oitekaze room with the warm support of all of you. I joined sumo in the sumo world after graduating from university, which I had longed to do since I was a child, and have spent my working years selflessly trying to live up to the expectations of those around me and realize my dreams. However, even though his life as a rikishi seemed smooth sailing at first, in the end, he had to battle with his body, which was not moving as he wished due to illness and injury.
Oh.
I was forced to retire in the midst of my ambition, but thanks to your warm support, I have been able to continue my career as a rikishi. With your warm support, I was able to succeed to the name of Oitekaze and establish my own stable as Oitekaze Oyakata. I have started my second life in the unknown world of teaching the younger generations, and while entrusting my apprentice with the dream that I could not fulfill, we are working hard as a team to become Yokozuna.
Nice.
As I was reading about this guy, his name was Daishoho.
Okay.
He was Maegashira, and he never really, it is true. When you look at his record, he made it up pretty quickly up into the Maegashira ranks. But because of his style and who he was kind of modeled after in his coming up into sumo, I think it was Wajima, somebody who had a very specific sort of approach to sumo, using their belly and their hips a lot. He had a different body, but that's the kind of sumo he learned how to do.
Different in what way?
Hip injuries. You hear about hip stuff, but not all the time. Whoever his mentor was, however it came down through that stable, he learned to use his hips a lot, which is in the end what caused him the problem. It was the hip injuries.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
That sort of, he was a belt, I think a Yotsu guy, but could do belt and, wait, what's Yotsu?
Yeah, belt.
Belt.
Oshi is the other one.
Yeah, Oshi's push. So, however he learned, he became very good, but his body could not sustain that type of approach to sumo. So
that was his master, you're saying?
No, this is Daishoho.
Oh, that's him. Oh, okay.
Daishoho. Okay, so he was born in 1966, debuted in 1989. So I guess that's 23. Wow, 22, 23. He made it up to Makuuchi in a year. He has 1 special prize, 3 kimboshi. His highest rank was Maegashira 2. He holds a Juryo championship title and 2 Makushita titles, actually. He was a college Yokozuna, amateur Yokozuna champion while studying at, this is the key thing to remember about this guy, he studied at Nihon University. He holds 11 amateur titles, which explains why he was scouted heavily way back then, and he eventually joined Tatsunami's stable. So he entered sumo and he crushed it. Like I said, 2 Makushita titles, 2 7-0 records, 2 that shot him up to Juryo. And then when he was in Juryo, he had a 12-3 record. And then with his Sekitori debut, and then he won the Juryo Yusho. Yeah, way up into Makuuchi super fast.
Wow.
Not surprised, but he preferred to be on the belt over pushing and thrusting. But the style which he approached in the dojo, what he preferred, that's kind of, whether he learned it in some other guy's style, whatever, it didn't translate because it came to be, he came to be just injured by the way he approached sumo.
Wow.
So he only wrestled for about 5 or 6 years. He was about 5'11", about 400 pounds. But listen to the wrestlers that he's raised up. Daieisho. And Daieisho is actually the only guy who was non-collegiate, meaning he's the only kid who joined the stable at 15 years old who's raised up. Daieisho.
Really?
And it makes some sense. The rest of them, almost every single one of these other guys, have come from Nihon University. So he is like the pick for those college grads.
Okay.
Endo, Tobizaru,
Okay.
Daiamami, Daishoho, Daishomaru, Tsurugisho, and Hitoshi, who I think is joining Juryo.
This is the website where all these guys are smiling, isn't it?
Yeah,
yes,
it is.
And now I'm remembering this. Yeah, they all look so grumpy, and then you like hover over the picture, and then they all smile really big.
It's super adorable.
Yeah.
But if you think about, wow, I don't know what he really looks like. Besides now I kind of know he looks like fat 70s Elvis in some photos. He's raised up some incredible wrestlers.
Yes, he has.
And interestingly enough, some of his best wrestlers, Daieisho, highest rank Sekiwake, Endo, highest rank Komusubi, Tobizaru, Komusubi, the rest of the guys in Maegashira's, but they all hover a lot of the times in that Maegashira 2 spot, like their master, they hover in that high Maegashira rank.
Yeah, so he's been able to develop wrestlers from college into wrestling much higher than he ever did. That's what you're saying?
Yeah. But also sometimes when they settle down into that high position that he sat in. So another interesting fact about this guy, though, and why, as a Maegashira 2, why he would run a stable. Well, he married the daughter of his Oyakata, of the Oitekaze stable. He was first to coach at Tatsunami, and then for a bit at Tomazuma, and then he eventually left with the Oitekaze stable name and the daughter to be the Okami-san.
Okay.
And then was able to start his own stable.
Huh.
So he's been a pipeline for Nihon University guys.
Yes,
so he inherits good guys, but he's been able to also raise up guys like Daieisho. So he's either a great scout, a great coach, or perhaps maybe both.
Or both, yeah. It makes me wonder if he goes to that college and helps them train,
Perhaps.
If
it's
that's
a
where
pipeline, if
he's
like, I went there, so.
Yeah.
So as I was reading about him, there's information. He came, but not tons, But when he came out into the world of sumo, he came out with, just reminding you, akebono, like that was his initiation class, essentially.
Wow.
That was his freshman year, is that generation of Wakana Hana and akebono, takatoriki. There were a bunch of guys that came out just amazing at the same time. He was good at using the weight of his hips to throw underhand throws from his right side. But the strain on his hips was too much, and he developed chronic back pain. He was instructed to attack faster from the left, but his right side did not improve. And so he was actually constantly criticized by commentators and everything about his style. But he went to the same high school and university as former Yokozuna Wajima, who I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And he received the same technical training and acquired a similar style, which actually was like, oh, that's interesting. Because maybe that old school sumo, when they were coming in, they're like, this is the style we do at this, at this heya. And it makes you wonder, oh, now some of these guys are developing their own style, or the coaches are like, let the guy develop their own style that suits them. But maybe in the old days, they were like, no, this is the style you will learn.
As kids develop their own style, they're developing it around their own body, and necessarily that would need to be different from another sumo wrestlers because their body is shaped differently and they have different
height,
strength.
weight,
yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Interesting.
This
is why you go to the university and you study sports medicine.
That's right.
To learn and study all this stuff.
One weird thing I found, and only in the Japanese Wikipedia site, did I see this interesting little tidbit. And I don't want to leave you with a sour note. It was just like, this is interesting. In July 2009, I'll just read it verbatim. It was reported that in late March of that year, Oitekaze had become embroiled in a violent incident against a Tokoyama belonging to the Oitekaze stable. The Tokoyama resigned from the JSA after the incident, and on July 22nd, 2009, Oitekaze was questioned by the JSA Special Committee on Life Guidance. Oitekaze explained that he had resorted to violence by hitting the Tokoyama, who had been bullying other wrestlers belonging to the stable, in order to make him reflect on his actions. He admitted that he had made other young wrestlers who had also been bullied also hit him. So the former Tokoyama subsequently filed a civil lawsuit against Oitekaze seeking compensation, but a settlement was reached at a district court in 2010. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. A Tokoyama.
Yeah.
And then they were abusive to the wrestlers. So then he was abusive to him to teach him a lesson and let the wrestlers beat him. I was like, this does not sound like a normal functioning stable. That's one that's a little backwards. But that was not in the English version. I found that in the Japanese version. So I was like, at least they let it be known. So I don't know. You don't know. I don't know the whole story. But I can't figure out the violence from a Tokoyama that could equal the violence, from a wrestler. Yeah, weird. So
yeah, it's just weird.
Happy ending.
It's never fun to imagine people being violent with combs and things like that in their hands.
Well, I would just think that's a pretty dumb, if that's your deal, you're the Tokoyama and you're violent towards a wrestler, that's a pretty dumb move because you ain't going to win that one.
Oh, it just makes me feel so sorry for those kids.
I know, you're conflicted. What would you do if you're surrounded by a world where violence is okay? Now, I'd like to think in 2024, they have had to evolve, and let's hope that they do not run that stable in the same manner they did back in 2009.
Yes, let's hope that.
Shall we move on to Hakkaku?
Yeah. Okay, Hakkaku. Let's do. Hakkaku, as I said before, he is the chairman of the JSA. He's the one presenting that big old trophy to the winner of each basho. He's a balding, very round-faced
I would say he's
man.
balding. He is bald.
No, well, he does have a little hair back there.
Does he?
Yeah, if you look at the photos, I think he shaves it.
Okay.
But sometimes it's growing back. Many people in America call him the bulldog because he has these big round cheeks.
Yeah, he kind of has jowls.
Yeah, and as someone who also has jowls,
as I do as well,
I have to appreciate them and just call him round-faced. He is the chairman of the JSA. He is also an Oyakata of a heya that is named after him, the Hakkaku Beya. He is a former Yokozuna.
Yeah,
y'all.
He's a big dog.
He is a very, very big dog. So we need to know more about him, and we need to know more than he's just the guy that reads out the certificates and hands out the trophies, because they only let the big guys do that.
His voice is like, ma, 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 ma. That's what I hear every time he talks. I was like, we need to give him some public speaking lessons, but...
Well, first of all, let me just tell you a little bit about his heya. Now, if Takakeisho's heya has the best parties with an Oyakata that does all the karaoke and they have a really, really good time, Hakkaku's heya is no slouch either. This is like the prestige heya. This is where you go with your cool friends to hang out.
Okay.
You eat some appetizers.
Oh, they probably have like a full restaurant in there.
Probably, because you get to hang out with the chairman of the JSA. You also get to hang out with Takami Sakari,
right?
Who was an incredibly popular rikishi in his day, and still a much loved judge and coach, and people just adore him. You also get to hang out with Okinoumi.
Right.
Who is a longtime rikishi and ladies' heartthrob.
Yes.
You get to hang out with Hokutofuji.
Right.
I mean, lover of the Lion King.
Right.
Probably whips out those show tunes at every point.
Pen, pineapple, pear.
Whatever
exactly.
that was. Yes.
That was.
And you get to hang out with Kitanowaka or any of his other wrestlers. And it looks like there's maybe about 15 wrestlers and a whole bunch of Tokiyama, right? Before COVID, I'm not sure if they're doing it after COVID, you could actually pay to visit this heya and watch them train.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's money behind this heya. It just it seems to be a super cool spot to be. And all of the people that train under him, they all say he's calm, he's gentle,
really,
he's kind, he's serious, he's like a father, but every single one of them say only good things about him.
Well, I mean, when I watch Hokutofuji, I mean, he's very serious as far as a wrestler is, but like, he's the stand-up guy. I felt like Okinoumi is very much the same.
Yes.
Stoic, fights hard in the ring, and then is a softie outside of it.
Yes. Yes. That's the feeling I got when I looked into his stable. So his real name is Nobuyoshi Hoshi, which I love. Nobuyoshi Hoshi is really fun for me to say. He was born in 1963.
Okay.
And he is one of those kids that came into sumo at age 14 or 15, left home, and in 1979, like, jumped into the sumo world. He was wrestling for Kokonoi stable, and within 4 years, he had reached the Makuuchi division at, 19?
Wow.
So he won 11 special prizes, 1 kimboshi, 8 top division championships. He was the 61st Yokozuna.
Mm-hmm.
So let me.
So not a Dai Yokozuna.
No.
Does not have 10.
No, only 8. So Terunofuji has surpassed him. Back in his heyday, he was 5'11". He weighed about 340 pounds.
Oh, that's pretty small.
Kind of small, but if you...
For Yokozuna.
For Yokozuna, yeah. But if you look at all the pictures of him in his heyday, what's so great about it is he's got that same big ol' full, like, jaw and, like, huge mouth full of teeth, and he smiles a lot, but he's got a perfect head of hair. And that's
I gotta
the
look
thing.
at Hakkaku young.
It's really sweet to see. He was a really... if you think of Hokutofuji, you can pretty much know what this guy's style was. He was an Oshizumo guy.
Yeah.
He always went for the Nodowa. He went for the throat attack first. Just think Hokutofuji. He was training when he came up with Chiyonofuji, who was one of the best wrestlers of all time.
Also smaller Yokozuna.
Yeah. So he was really in a stable that was producing Yokozuna. And so he was one of them. He won his first basho as a sekewake in 1986. And later that same year, he became ozeki.
Mm-hmm.
In 87, he won his second championship, and then he was runner-up in the next one, and that promoted him to Yokozuna in 1987 at the age of 23.
Wow.
Which is so young.
Yeah.
In 88... he got a severe back injury doing sumo, and he was out doing rehab on a pretty major lumbar disc injury and a bruised hip. He couldn't walk properly for about 2 months. He did PT and exercises for 8 hours a day, he said. Lots of work on stairs, extreme cold treatments. And this is in the 80s. This is like top-level science for the 80s, I would think. just imagine that 8 hours a day
No.
of physical therapy and trying to get yourself back in shape, which is
thanks.
probably exactly what Wakataka Kage did
Yeah.
to get back to that top
absolutely.
division. So his 88 was an injured year. He came roaring back in 1989, won the Basho in January, in May, in July he had a playoff with Yokozuna Kitanowaka, who's in his same stable, which almost never happens.
Usually, yeah.
Right? In 1990, he won in a 3-way playoff for the Basho, and there's great video of this online from March 1990 of him with this 3-way playoff between Kanishiki and Kirishima. Not the same Kirishima that we're watching now.
Number 1.
Yeah. But it's great because you could see him do this 3-way playoff. You get to see Kanishiki again,
Right.
which is always fun. And it's got his post-basho interviews. It's got the parades. It's got the celebrations. It's got like all the speeches he was giving to people afterwards. It's a great video. And I can put that in our notes if you want to watch that. Or you can just search for that. In 1991, he injured his knee in the middle of a basho and still went on to win it.
Wow.
But that really started, I'll just say the injury started to accumulate more in 1991. So in 1992, he retired at the age of 28.
Wow.
Citing injuries. Yeah, I know. Citing injuries to his shoulders, elbows, and knees. But it's interesting to think of him because when he became a Yokozuna, in his heyday while he was Yokozuna, there were 3 other Yokozuna at that time.
Yeah.
And by the time he retired, he was the last of those 4
Wow.
to retire and there was like a break until Akebono became one.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So he, like I said, he retired in 1992. In 1993, he established his stable, the Hakkaku stable, and had 4 top division wrestlers at that time. He's also an occasional commentator. He does this Sunday sports commentary called, and I love this title, whoever came up with this is brilliant, Hakkaku Oyakatas Golden Words and Bitters.
Bitter saying.
Isn't that great?
It's like, what would be the translation of that?
I don't know.
The
It's just
upside
great.
and the downside with
Right?
Hakkaku.
Right? In his commentary, he often talks about the lack of what he calls clash training.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like, kids, like, really going up against each other.
Right.
Not just doing the weightlifting and stuff like that, but actually doing the sumo wrestling. And so he's quoted as saying things like, "I'm grateful to be hit because I can put out my chest and it's a hard practice. It is hard, but it becomes normal if you do it every day and you have to do it until it is normal."
Which makes sense if you watch someone like Hokutofuji battle it out.
Yeah.
That is his game plan. Every time he goes out there, bash away.
That's right. And that's how this guy became Yokozuna. So in 2010, he was appointed as an executive member of the JSA, but he was forced to resign after one of his wrestlers was found guilty of match fixing.
Things were going down in 2009,
I know.
2010, 2011. It was dark times.
It was.
In the sumo world.
But he didn't stay down long. In 2012, he was elected to the JSA Board of Directors. He became head of PR, which I believe is what Hakuho does, right? Isn't he the head of PR?
Oh, yeah, he was. Yeah, but I don't know about now.
Okay. This might be what you just do with your Yokozuna. You're like, you can be our PR guy.
You can talk.
Yeah. In 2015, I think the best way to explain this is, okay, so he got on the board of directors in 2012. In 2015, the chairman of the board died. And so they said, okay, Hakkaku, why don't you take his place? It's in the middle. We're not going to vote you in because this is a sudden death. So you just take over the job. So he took over the job, and it was a short-lived appointment of maybe half a year or something like that. And they said, we'll have a re-election at the end of this term, and we'll figure out who the new guy is.
He was an interim.
Exactly. Interim. He was the interim chairman. Well, every single election since then, he has won.
Got it.
So he was an interim chairman, and they like his work.
Right.
Very much. And so he is still the chairman of the JSA now. He will need to retire.
Yeah, but he just had his 60th, his
Kanreki.
Yeah, Kanreki Doyo Iri.
Yeah. I also like to look at, okay, what has he done since he's been chairman?
Held a lot of meetings.
He has held a lot of meetings. And he started, I did not know this, he started the Social Contribution Department of the Sumo JSA world to support areas affected by various disasters.
Good job.
That is one thing he helped to begin. He also opened a kids' room at the Kokugikan so that entire families could enjoy the basho more. So there's a kids' room somewhere around there that I had no idea.
How fun.
And he has tried to be more proactive about the bullying accusations. He's tried to change the environment of the organization from the inside out.
Well, maybe he had a conversation with Oitekaze Oyakata.
Perhaps.
And said, hey, this violence is not good.
And then he went to the Naruto Beya and he said, I don't know what the funny business is. I'm reading it in the tabloids. It has to stop.
Yeah. Whatever the Soshoma kid's doing, it's got to stop. Or that's just all news, rag mags.
It might, but we've learned that oftentimes the truth comes out in the tabloids first.
Yes.
And then the other media outlets pick it up.
Well, we have discussed, though, too, the fact that there are journalists assigned and they have kind of this code of conduct where they're allowed in, they get to see things, but then they also don't get to report on exactly everything they see.
Yes.
And then sometimes those get leaked out, what is seen or what is rumored to be true, and those are leaked out to the rag mags.
Yes.
They are not allowed to report on that because they are the official JSA connected journalist assigned to certain stables.
Yes.
So that is kind of the way some of those headlines roll out. And sometimes, a lot of the time, they are actually true in some way, but not all the time. And in this instance, maybe not true at all.
What surprised me, and in a pleasant way, about Hakkaku,
I thought he would be like stone cold, stern disciplinarian guy, but he looks like that, but he's not.
But every kid in his stable reports him to be not a softie, but they call him calm and gentle and serious.
Really? Well, I saw a picture of him when he won a youth show, and there's like 4 children there sitting with him, and I was like, does he have like 7 kids? Like, is this guy like a real dad? Like,
I couldn't find information on that. I'm sure it's there, but I just couldn't find it in the research that I did. In the interviews that you see with him, he is incredibly calm. He takes his time.
Yeah.
In a way that's pretty unusual.
Mm.
Like, someone will ask a question and he might laugh, but he's very thoughtful. He's much more thoughtful than I thought he would be. He's not an effusive, like, happy-go-lucky performer type guy. He seems to be very thoughtful. But what's remarkable is he has had, I don't know, how long is that career? 45, almost 50 years.
Yeah.
With few, if any, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, bad things that have happened.
Infractions.
Like he's just not embroiled in conflict.
Right, or controversy.
Like, controversy less, except for one of his kids that threw a match, right? There's no controversy in his stable, which is incredible.
Or none that we hear of.
Well, that could be as well. But I think that, if you want somebody to chair your organization,
you need a steady hand.
Yeah. And you need someone with dignity, and you need someone calm, and you need someone whose charges aren't like running around willy-nilly, beating up on other people. Like, he seems to be like a constant calming presence.
Interesting.
Maybe I don't know how to nickname that, but that's what I was amazed at more than anything. Perhaps it was Hakkaku, right? Perhaps that is what the JSA is always looking for in their yokozuna, is that sort of presence.
Right.
Like, nothing spicy, just good heart, solid guy, calm,
steady, calm,
strong. And I can see why they would have him be president for so long and just keep reelecting him.
Right. Don't rock the boat.
Right.
If he seems to be a calm figurehead, then with all the scandal that can happen in this world, you got to have somebody at the top of it all who's like, let's calm ourselves down. Let's not be the organization that we used to be.
Yeah.
But he seems He seems like a steady hand, you know?
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, it is good.
He's 61, though, so we're only going to have him for 4 more years.
That's right. If he gets reelected, he'll have to go through another reelection cycle. And I can't imagine that they would put anyone else up there.
But there's some,
But there's a chance.
These guys, you know, with these powerhouses, they're older. They're 60, 61. Like, they don't have tons of time, you know. So there's going to continue to be a big old changeover in whoever's running this whole thing soon.
I think that is our episode for today.
That is.
I know. It's a very short episode when there's no controversy to be found.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows what we'll be back with you at. See? Can't speak today. See? I don't. Some days you're on, some days you're off. I'd say 75% of the time I'm off. 25% on. Today was definitely off. But we'll be back at you next week with something.
Something.
Until then,
Jamata.
Mataraishu. Bye.